Welcome back to the Purple Menace podcast presented by Dutch's Burgers. I'm Ryan Osborne with Billy Wessels, the owner of PurpleMenace.com, the publisher of PurpleMenace.com. I'm a staff writer, and we'll be talking TCU football out here on the back patio each Thursday night, 48 hours until kickoff. LSU, TCU, AT&T Stadium. Big opening game against the number 12 Tigers, a chance to knock off an SEC program for TCU, start the season 1-0. Always want to do that. What's kind of been your initial impressions, 2 days heading into the game? Uh, you know, what's been your overall feel for how this thing's going to play out eventually?
I think it's as far as the game itself. I think it'll come down to whoever makes fewer mistakes. That's pretty much how football always is, especially between two very evenly matched teams. But I think these two teams are very equal. I think whoever makes the fewer mistakes is going to end up winning. So it's just a matter of hanging on the football. But I think really the whole energy of the week in the game as we get closer and closer to kickoff, it seems like the energy is getting more and more hyped up. Looking at Twitter, and all Twitter is I'm going to the LSU TCU game. I'm going to the TCU LSU game. I'm so pumped about this weekend and ready to fill up AT&T Stadium. I think just the game itself has generated so much buzz for both schools. It's fantastic.
Especially on the TCU side. Gary Patterson held his not inaugural, but first Gary Patterson press conference Tuesday, first one of the year. He'll do it every Tuesday, weekly press luncheon. And he sort of threw us all for a loop when he said, when asked about Devontae Fields' suspension and whether it's been lifted or not, and he told the guy that asked him, Stephen, he said, you'll find out at game time. Is he opening the door for this, or is he just sort of screwing with us?
I think he's just messing with us a little bit. I don't see a way he ends up playing him. If I were him, of course, I'd want to play him. I'd want to play the best defensive player, the preseason All-American, preseason All-Big 12 guy. I'd love to see him out there making some havoc, but I don't see Patterson going away from his word. I mean, he said, if you're a betting person and you've known me long enough, what would you bet on? And if I were to bet, I'd bet on him not playing.
Yeah, maybe. I think you can't discount the fact that he has at least opened the door for Devontae Fields to return, and they need him because physically they're going to be mismatched on the interior, on the defensive and offensive line. But if he plays Devontae Fields, I think honestly it is a stupid decision from a perception PR standpoint. It's dumb. You can't put your foot down 3 months ago and then revert back on it once Les Miles gets wishy-washy on what Jeremy Hill's going to be doing.
Which, by the way, he's never said anything about Jeremy Hill playing.
Did I see somewhere Jeremy Hill is actually going to be at the game Saturday night?
Jeremy Hill, yeah, he's going to be at the game. He's third on the depth chart. He's making the trip out there. The quote that he said and Les Miles said in his press conference was, "It wouldn't surprise him if Jeremy Hill made the trip," which is just a really weird, confusing way of saying Jeremy Hill's going to be there.
Which, Miles and Patterson are kings of that, especially leading up to this game.
Yeah. So I think Jeremy Hill is there. I don't know if he plays or not. It wouldn't surprise me if Les Miles like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't play this guy. Make a gentleman's agreement with Patterson about, all right, you don't play Fields, I don't play Hill. Let's get over with it.
And it's tough for TCU, the fact that Fields is having to be compared to a guy, Jeremy Hill, who's been
accused of
two separate. He's been in trouble for two separate assault issues. One in high school, one where he just came in,
sucker punched a bouncer.
Guy at a bar, he had a bouncer, a haymaker behind him when he wasn't even looking. And the other one when he was in high school,
we don't even get into that on this podcast.
Yeah, we don't even want to get into that because yes, exactly. So what Fields did and what Hill did are completely polar opposite, I think, in my opinion. But I think from a perception standpoint, putting your foot down, suspending him, you can't really revert back on that. I think that sort of locked him into keeping that suspension. But moving on from that, the other thing that's sort of still been confusing, and the Patterson says he hasn't even told his wife or his golden retrievers, for that matter, who will be starting at quarterback Saturday. Both Trevon Boykin and Casey Paul will be going out for the coin flip.
I think Tyler Matthews might be out there too.
Hey, Zach Allen.
Just to see Zach Allen might make an appearance. Heck, Grayson Muhlstein's going to be at the stadium. That's all I know. He's going to be watching the game. He might show up at the coin flip.
Pull him out. Put a jersey on him. I mean, they may, maybe Boykin and Paul Hall both had a bad camp.
Yeah, maybe. No, I think, you're going to see those two guys, and he hadn't told anyone. I'm glad he hadn't told his dog, because as we know, we've seen his dog before. They're like the Bush's baked beans dog. Always trying to reveal the family recipe.
Like Airbud.
Airbud doesn't talk, though.
Yeah, but
Airbud could draw a play. He could run
back.
He could run a route and be like, spell out Casey Paha or Trevon Boykin or something like that. Whatever. This is going way off the rails really fast here. This is where my mind's at.
Where's it going to be running around?
on AT&T Field Stadium.
It's been a long
He's
game
during the
week for us
walkthrough.
at Purple
During the
Menace.
walkthrough. We've been doing a lot. It may not seem like it or feel like it. We've been all over the place on this. No, I think my honest opinion about the quarterback situation is I don't know, but I think both of them will play. I think both of them play substantial. I could see both of them. I think whoever gets the fewest amount of snaps, probably Boykin, will get at least 10 snaps out there. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, and I think if it is Boykin who's the backup, if Paul Hall does start, as I think me and you would both agree that's probably going to happen, I would at least I would say, are you thinking Boykin's going to be in for 10 throwing plays as the primary quarterback, or because I think we could really see him a lot in a wild frog, wildcat, whatever you want to call it, sort of a formation like that.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see a full house package where you've got the quarterback way back and then two kind of wing backs right in front of them. Like they're basically in the pistol formation and the quarterback's in the shotgun spot. I want to see the two wingback guys be Baja and Boykin. And I want Wayman James to be the quarterback in that situation. I want all three of them in the backfield, probably for the first snap, just to mess with everybody, because Twitter might explode if that happens. Look at what they're doing, look at what they're doing. And it would just be a direct snap to Wayman James, who throws an 82-yard touchdown pass to Ladarius Brown on the first play. I don't know. Just thinking that could happen.
The impact of this game, it's hard to understate it. It's, I think, something both of me and you would probably agree on. It's definitely the biggest game since the Rose Bowl, which was really a program-defining moment. I think this is somewhere along those lines as far as.
I think it's a little bigger than the Rose
Yeah, I
Bowl.
mean, it is.
That's my personal
bigger because
opinion.
it's the next step. It's not a must-win in the sense that if they lose it, if they lose it, they can still win the Big 12. They can still eventually get to where they want to be. But right now, this is the next step. This is the next step after the Rose Bowl.
If they lose this game and win out, they're going to a BCS Bowl. There's no doubt about that. If they win this
they
game,
lose
if
it,
they win this game and win out, they're in the national title game, more than likely.
No,
you could see a case where TCU, Ohio State,
every game in college football is a must.
Yeah, of course. But of course, if you win this game, next week suddenly a must-win game. If you win that game, then next week's a must-win game. And that's kind of the era we live in, where there's not a playoff yet, where there is no middle ground there.
I also think from a program standpoint, though, this is definitely. I mean, you win this game, you win it on a national scale. It's an 8:00 game. Everyone's going to be watching on ESPN. It's in probably one of the best, probably the best football stadium in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. This is the stage. This is the big game. This is TCU's next chance to prove themselves on a national level, and they can compete. I think out of all the Big 12 teams, TCU has the best shot to beat an LSU because they match up well. Because physically, from a scheme standpoint, they're going to keep it low. I don't see this game going into the 20s, to be honest.
Really?
I don't. I think TCU will play conservative, and I don't think LSU has the guns to get it there. I don't think they have the offensive firepower to get it into the 20s, unless TCU's going back and forth with them. I think they're going to slow it down.
I don't see a lot of back and forth. I think for TCU to win or really have a chance, their speed has to prevail. They have to get over LSU's severe size advantage they have, especially on the offensive line, because that LSU line is massive. We were looking at the depth chart earlier, and these guys are freaking ridiculous. They're left tackle, 6'5", 315. Left guard, 6'6", 342. Center, 6'4", 300, who's starting in front of a guy who's 6'7", 301. Their right guard.
6'7" center. 6'7" center.
Their right guard is 6'3", 316. His backup is 6'6", 348. All these guys, their backups are bigger than their starters. I'm just now realizing this. So I don't know what that even says. I think maybe they're going with a smaller.
That's depth. That's
depth that TCU doesn't frankly have right now.
And it also says that the guys in front of those guys who are 6'7", 310, the guys that are starting aren't just big guys out there. They're good at blocking.
Athletic.
They're athletic. They're good at creating running lanes, and that's what LSU's entire offense is centered on. Zach Mettenberger, maybe he's been improved because of Cam Cameron. I don't know, but I think going up against TCU's secondary, he's going to be pretty much limited in what he can do. So it's all going to come down to what happens inside the box.
Oh yeah, Patterson said the other day in his media luncheon that if I got to put 7 guys out there, I'll put 8 guys out there. That's his biggest decision he's got to make as a coach is how many people to put in the defensive box. And I think that's something he's going to find out pretty early in the game, that maybe if I put 8 guys in the box, I got a better shot because we trust Verrett and White and Olabode on the outside against their receivers. They got some big receivers too. I'm looking at this right here, looking at their Z guy, Jarvis Landry, 6'1", 195, Cadron Boone, 6 foot 202. Odell Beckham Jr., 6 foot 193. I mean, they're big guys on the outside. It's just, I don't know. In their tight ends, their starting tight end is 6'3", 230. Their backup tight end is 6'5", 286. they're all over the freaking map with size and probably athleticism. So
I had a chance to talk this week with Bobby Hebert, the infamous Bobby Hebert,
former
the
Saints starting quarterback.
yeah, the former Saints quarterback, the guy
I'm
who
wearing a
infamously,
Saints shirt right now. Actually.
You are. LSU fan in the house. No, kidding. Although there's no TCU fans here to jump on you.
We're journalists. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But Bobby Hebert, who infamously chewed out Les Miles after the 2011 BCS title game. Anyways, I was talking to him, and him and the other guy he was on the radio with, I was on their show, and he said he thinks that TCU is probably going to hang with LSU in the first half, but the Tigers are really going to pull away in the second half, really break TCU down, especially take advantage of the depth they have. Do you see that something like that happening? Do you see TCU sticking with LSU for 2 quarters, 3 quarters, but then really getting grinded down towards the end of the game?
The thing I've been saying all along about this game is I think it's going to be a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, and then a fluke play will happen. Someone will muffle punt. Somebody will throw an interception. Someone will fumble the ball, and then that leads to a big play, and it turns into a two-possession game, and it's too much for the other team to overcome. I think that's what we're looking at here. I think it'll be a really tight, well-played game for the most part, and then something will happen. Momentum will shift, and it'll shift tragically for one team.
Yeah, it could be this game is going to be close. We'll give our predictions later in the show, but a little bit of a spoiler alert. I think it's going to be within 3 to 4 points, either way. And I think both coaches want to keep it that way. I know Gary Patterson, he probably wants to keep it a closer
He wants field
game.
goals.
Yeah, field goals. I don't think that neither coach is looking for a shootout here. That said, I think. This when a game is close like that, one fumble, one missed punt, one field goal missed, one field goal made, that can make the difference ultimately.
Yeah, Overcombe lining up for a 52-yarder wouldn't surprise me with the shot to win the game at the end, because I think
that could happen.
That could definitely happen, because that's just where this game's going to be at, even-wise. And Patterson has hinted this all week and kind of all offseason, saying that he really trusts his kicker and punter, and his whole special teams in general right now, that he's really psyched about them all being sophomores. So just because he's freaking out about them being freshmen last year, now they're sophomores, now he feels a lot better about them. So I think it could turn into one special teams play here, one special teams play there, and this thing is getting wide open late. But I really do think it'll be a tightly played game for the most part.
What can this game do as far as sending a statement to the rest of the Big 12? Obviously, the Big 12 does not have a clear-cut favorite. There's a lot of parity, a lot of good parity. But TCU coming into the season beating an LSU at Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. Sorry, I'm probably going to say that wrong at least 20 times over the next few days.
Patterson said it wrong in his media meeting yesterday. He called
it Cowboys
Cowboys
Stadium.
Stadium.
Be careful with that. Those branding people they're throwing what, $20 million a year at that? Anyways,
something like that.
What can this do as far as sending a message to the rest of the Big 12? Would TCU would have to be the favorite if they win this game?
If they win this, since it's so wide open, and you're really looking at teams or media people I've seen all across the country, you're looking at TCU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, or Texas are generally the favorites. Baylor's sitting there at 5. Sometimes some people like Baylor, some people don't. I think if TCU were to find a way and pull out a big win this week, they immediately jump to the favorites in everyone's mind, and favorites for the conference and a potential national title contender there. And I think that's what this says. And also, we'll get into it in a second, but how big of a boom this could be for recruiting, because there'll be a ton of high-profile recruits in the house, and a lot of teams look at LSU and TCU as potential landing spots to spend their college time. So I think this is just going to be just a big statement game here for both teams, really, but TCU in particular could really change things.
All right, it's that time. Give me a couple keys to the game. What's this really going to come down to? And then give me a score prediction. I'm going to put you on the spot. Even though I complained about this earlier.
Yeah, like an hour ago on the way over here to Dutchess. You're like, I hate people that give predictions.
I don't like predictions.
Well, let's give predictions later. So I'm like, fine, whatever. I really do think it'll be how TCU's speed can match up with the size that LSU has. And obviously LSU has size and speed, but this reminds me a lot of the Wisconsin game. It's hard not to make that comparison. And I recently watched the Rose Bowl game, and I still don't understand how TCU made a couple stops they did, because they just seemed like they were balling all over. Monty Ball was just running over every DB, every linebacker except for Tank Carter that TCU had. It was just having his way with the defense there. So I don't know how TCU stepped up, and they gave up so many third down plays. I was shocked by the fact that 3rd and 7, LSU picks up 10 yards. third and 4, or Wisconsin picked up 9 yards. It just blew my mind that TCU ended up winning that game, and I couldn't figure it out. So I think it's going to be a matter of if the size and persistence that TCU has, and that fighters' intensity is not what I'm looking for. Integrity,
Instinct.
maybe. Huh?
Instinct, right?
Instinct, yeah, that TCU has, that Gary Patterson's known for and made famous, is going to have to play a factor here. So I think TCU's got their, I don't want to say back against the wall, but that's kind of how they kind of like to be. They like being the underdog. Of course, every coach does. They like being put in a spot where people don't expect them to win, and I like that attitude. So if you had to put me on the spot, which you are, and making me pick a score, I think I legitimately think it'll be like 27-17, because it'll be a 17-20 game. Someone muffs a punt with 3 minutes to go, and then someone scores a touchdown to put it away. TCU wins. TCU wins.
I was going to say, were you about to try to back out of giving a prediction?
TCU wins 27-17. There it is.
That's fair. I think it's all going to come down to, can TCU maintain? Can they? I think the first quarter, the second quarter, they're going to be able to go up front with these guys, and they're not going to have an advantage on the offensive and defensive line, but they're going to be able to lessen the burden for and really spread out the skills to their other players. The wide receivers, they could have an advantage there. At quarterback, they have an advantage there in the secondary. That's going to kind of lessen the burden of not really having an advantage on the line. But can they maintain that into the third quarter, the fourth quarter? And if they do, can they prevent a catastrophic fumble or a punt drop, something like that, or giving up the punt return? I mean, that could always happen. Les Miles has been known to pull some crazy stuff in special teams games. Ultimately, though, I think we don't see as conservative a game plan as we saw against Texas last season, where Trevon Boykin threw it for, 6 times, 9 times?
Something like that.
But I think Casey Paul Hall makes a few plays with his arm. He sort of gets back into the rhythm that we've seen him in 2011 at the beginning of last year. I'm going to go and say, let's see, I gave it a separate prediction earlier, but I'm going to adjust it. I think it's going to be 20-17.
That's much more plausible than your score earlier, by the way.
Well, my earlier score was 16-14.
Which is very difficult to get to 16.
Well, I mean, I think 16, I'm not trying to go for exactness here. I'm trying to enlighten our listeners. Fine, 20-17, TCU. I don't want to say they shocked the world because it's cliche, but they will prove that, their style of play is very conducive to beating an SEC team. They can match up with an SEC program. We haven't seen that from the Big 12 in the past few years. The Big 12 has been so spread offense-oriented, pass-oriented. TCU is going to sort of, I think they could really shake things up, and they could really take advantage of having more of a pro-style, defensive-minded approach to the game. I think they beat LSU. Obviously start 1-0, and then you focus your attention on Texas Tech, or I guess Southeast
Louisiana. Don't look over them.
But yeah, so that's how I think it's going to go down. But like you mentioned earlier, whether TCU wins or loses, this could still have a big impact on recruiting. Billy, what's going on the recruiting front? It's been fairly quiet the past few weeks. We haven't had much information to pass along. But who do you think TCU is really eyeing at this point? They are at around 10 commitments, I think.
10 commits.
That makes up a majority of their class.
Yeah, they're trying to get to 16, I think is what we said before.
15-16. Who do you see them going after at this point?
I think the biggest name is clearly Braden Smith, and I think he might be the next shoe to fall. I think it depends on what he decides. TCU might go a different approach on the offensive line, because they want to add another offensive lineman and just see where it goes from there. I think if he ends up going, because he's down to Alabama and TCU. I think he said that
basically
before.
Alabama and TCU. It's just a matter of when is he going to decide. No one really knows.
No one really knows. I've heard some reports they've got a good feeling about him coming to TCU. So that wouldn't surprise me. I think once he makes his decision, then we'll see what TCU wants to do. I think another guy for the O-line they might be looking at is Brad Lundblade. He's an area kid. He's nowhere near the caliber. I don't want to say nowhere near the caliber. He's not quite as highly touted as Braden Smith, but he's a talented
Braden
guy.
Smith is a top 50 recruit nationally. He has the potential to be a 5-star in rivals. He's a 5-star in other recruiting sites. Brad Lundblade, Liberty Christian, Southlake.
Yeah.
Great player.
Really good kid.
Isn't highly touted, but this is a guy that I think that makes sense. He reminds me of TCU players in the past.
if TCU offers him, he's pretty much told me before he's going to jump on it. He's gonna
will.
yeah, he'll commit on the spot pretty much if TCU gives him an offer. So I feel like if Braden Smith, once he makes his decision, that could be the next shoe to fall. But other than that, I think they're just kind of keeping their options open. There's nothing really that they're dying for other than the linebacker. They got a big linebacker in Jimmy Swain, but they thought they were getting another one a couple weeks ago. So maybe they go after another linebacker. But I think they really want to get an offensive lineman first. That's probably their biggest goal.
I think it's always good to add depth at offensive line. I think the more you add that, especially in the Big 12, where you have a defense, you have, uh, you know, for whatever reason, TCU's been able to reel in quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, and they get the receivers too. You have the size inside. They have a solid defensive front. They have guys coming in. I think you bolster that offensive line as much as you can, build everything around that, and all sort of falls into place.
Mm-hmm. I really do think. I mean, but they're done with quarterback now for this class. They have two really great ones.
They have two guys that are they are going to compete for the job in 2 or 3 years.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, I don't know 2 or 3 years, but down the line, whenever they get here, they get through the red shirts, all that. They'll be competing together. They'll be competing for the starting quarterback job.
It seems like there are a lot of offers out there to defensive backs. I mean, a lot of these offers are people that have already kind of ruled TCU out, but like Kendall Randolph out in Florida, and I'm looking at John Bonney down in Houston, John Plattenberg down in Houston. These are guys who TCU had TCU offers and are looking around, weighing their odds. And Edwin Freeman, another guy, he's an Arlington guy who.
Freeman is a big one. I don't know if they can get him, but he is a guy.
I don't think he can either, but he released the top 4 last week, and TCU was in it. So you got to think he's.
Yeah, TCU and Texas, I think, are the two there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's tough to beat Texas. But again, that's the thing. If you win this game, suddenly people are like, all right, maybe hold up a second. Let me look at those frogs a little bit more.
Yeah. What do you think it is? What do you think it's truly going to take for TCU to get on the level of? I don't want to say Texas, because Texas is on a level.
Well, they have their
own
TV network, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, on a level of an Oklahoma State or an Oklahoma or
I think if
a Texas A&M potentially. I think these are so. These schools come in and these kids just know everything about them. They grew up watching them play. Yeah. I mean, is that what's going to take, another generation of kids?
I think they need to win the Big 12. I think if they win the Big 12 this year, you could see a couple late flips. That wouldn't surprise me at all. A couple kids be like,
yeah,
you know what, I was committed to. Let's look at this, Minnesota. We can tie into that here in a second. A kid committed to Minnesota who's thinking, you know what, maybe I want to look at TCU a little bit harder.
Yeah.
We're referring to, of course, Connor Mays and.
Which I think TCU has a good shot to flip him. I don't have any inside information. I honestly do not have any inside information on this. We haven't been able to get a hold of Connor Mays.
No, I called him 3 times this week and he didn't answer.
But he was on campus last week, Friday. He was there for the uniform reveal. I don't know if he was actually in the room, but he was visiting during that time. And his dad played for TCU, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There's the natural ties there. But you're right. I think winning the Big 12, but sustaining that success. And I think it comes down to, honestly, building, I don't want to say building a fan base because the fan base is there, but TCU is naturally inhibited by a small private school. You're not a big state school. You're not going to have, it sounds bad, you're not going to have the T-shirt fans. So
it's 100% correct. I almost made a joke earlier what's it going to take. I decided to go with a legit answer with the Big 12. I thought about saying lots more Walmarts, like in the area, because that's places where people can buy shirts. And you see that a lot with Texas.
There's actually not a Walmart that close to TCU.
No, there really isn't. If you're a TCU alum and you know how far away Walmart is, it's a solid 12 to 15 minute.
Might as well root for Texas, you know.
Exactly. So I really do. I think winning the Big 12 goes a long way. And I think if you win the Big 12, suddenly you get a couple guys flip, maybe a couple more big names start looking your way. And that's pretty much what happened with A&M. I mean, A&M had obviously a fantastic season last year, and they had one of the best recruiting classes I've ever seen last year.
They did, and I think that's a perfect example, though, of what winning and what, honestly, a polarizing player in Johnny Manziel, a guy that's going to bring attention, what new uniforms, what a new coach, what a new conference can really do to I think it revived Texas A&M. Texas A&M in 2003 lost 77-0 to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I don't care if that's a fluke or not. If your program's at a point where you're losing 77-0
in a conference game, I don't care who's in your conference. You shouldn't lose that bad to
a conference game. When you're Texas A&M, that program was revitalized almost overnight. It was so mediocre, even with Mike Sherman there, and at the end of the R.C. Slocum tenure, so mediocre. And now it's one of the premier programs in the country. But they also have the backing of a 50,000 student population. And I think that is going to inhibit TCU in the recruiting game. Patterson has shown he can kind of work around that.
Oh yeah, clearly, obviously, he's had so much great success here already, and it doesn't care. He doesn't seem to matter to him that TCU's got 10,000 current students and what. I saw Stephen actually tweeted out the number earlier. Was it like 80,000 living alum?
82,000 living alumni.
So, which is, if you think about it, that's how many seats are in Cowboy or AT&T Stadium.
Yeah,
it's about 80 to 80
there's going to be 85,000 there.
Right, and it'll be everyone will be wearing purple. Doesn't matter what shade of purple and what your secondary color is going to be.
Speaking of colors,
whoa.
Well, I mean, it's colors, uniforms. Sorry, not the.
Okay.
I mean,
you got the red in the jersey. What do you think about the red in the jersey?
That was an awkward segue. Anyways, the uniforms were revealed Friday. They're going to be wearing them during the game Saturday. People were afraid. I think they're going to have too much red in them, but I think they actually looked well. What do you think? What was your initial impression seeing them Friday when they were released?
You know, for the most part, I like them. I really do. And they're wearing them 3 times this year? I think Patterson said. He said definitely this game, and they'll pick 2 more times.
I don't know if he said. Did he say a number?
I feel like I heard 3 times.
I know this will be one of 4.
Oh, 4?
Well,
one of 4 uniforms. No, I think I heard they'll wear this 3 times, and I think you're looking at this game, the Texas game probably, and I don't know what the third game is going to be. I've got no idea. Yeah. But I think I legitimately do like them. I don't much care for the gloves. I think the gloves are way too red for my taste. And the helmet, I almost wish TCU wasn't on the helmet at all. I feel like the TCU on the back is an afterthought.
I think it's kind of awkward.
I don't like the letters on there. I like the red stripe on the side. Hooray stripes. I think I do like the jersey. I love the jersey. I like the pants. I got no problem with the shoes and socks. The helmet, the TCU on the back of the helmet bugs me. Maybe it was a little bit smaller, it'd bug me less.
Well, it looked like it was kind of like slapped on there.
It does.
They finished the entire uniform. Then
we got to put TCU somewhere.
Arch TCU, slap it on there. But I think it look cool. I'm sitting in the end zone seats. I'm going to be looking at all the TCUs when they're going the other way. So that might be pretty cool. But
I'm in the press box. I'll tell you how it looks from the giant scoreboard.
From South Lake, where you're sitting up there in the press box.
It's pretty far away. But it's but that press box is so nice though. So many nice.
It's massive
chairs.
And nice, and everything in there is very nice.
Thanks, Jerry.
Well, I am his official spokesman, not really. But to clarify on the uniforms, just so our listeners know, the new uniform that was released, that plus the 3 uniforms they had last season, they could use any combination of that. There's 48 different combinations from what Mark Cohen told me on Saturday, I guess, during Meet the Frogs. So
you can wear lots of with the white jersey, with the black
tons of
pants,
mixing and matching
with the red
going
shoes, with the black gloves. I mean, I wouldn't do it because I'm by far not a stylist, but I think it's a cool way of if you say, hey, recruits, we let our players pick what we wear, sort of thing, to see what they like and all that.
And I think it does make an impact on recruiting.
I know we're going to wrap it up here in a minute. What do you think about the roof being closed for the game?
I don't know how much would that affected in Cowboys Stadium.
It's going to be loud.
Well, yeah,
it's going to be loud in there.
I didn't even think about that, but I think, I mean, whether it's 60-40 TCU fans, 50-50, 60-40 LSU fans, or more in either direction, it is going to be loud on every single down. So I don't really think either side is going to have a home field advantage.
Well, no, probably not. I think it'll help LSU actually a little bit, the roof being closed, because TCU doesn't play any indoor games.
Yeah.
And I think LSU they've played in the Sugar Bowl before, which is closed. They've played in, I think someone else in the SEC has a dome, right?
When was the last time?
Georgia have a dome?
Well, they play in the Georgia Dome for the SEC Championship,
so they're familiar with playing in domes, and I think that might actually hurt TCU a little bit. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I think it's a little different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are now less than 48 hours. I've been running this clock for the past 10 days.
It's 47 and 25 minutes.
47 and 25 minutes. Either Jaden Obercrum will be kicking off or Brandon Carter will be returning it. And the 2013 season will be underway. I know I'm ready. Billy's ready. And we know the 85,000 fans in attendance Saturday will be ready.
And you looked at the numbers on tickets still available on StubHub earlier, right?
There were around 865 tickets available. They're ranging from $49 to $10,000 and
to
165.
not reasonable. So you can either go for the super cheap or like a class at TCU.
I mean, mostly the upper level seats in the upper deck. You're gonna be sitting in Grapevine and South Lake, like I mentioned before. But they're around $65 to $90. Lower levels, $250 to $400.
Honestly, if I were a fan and didn't have a ticket, I'd be up for paying $65 for a game. I think that's a deal.
Or the party passes are what? I
Party
think
passes are
$50.
I think they might be. I think they're like 30.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not
no, they're
100% sure
40.
on that.
You could buy. There's still party passes available for $40. But like you said, it's going to be very loud, and I think you're going to get your money's worth. Maybe, as long as you don't pay
10 grand,
10 grand. Even then, you better get your money's worth somehow. Which I don't really know how that would happen. But well, for Billy Wessels, this is Ryan Osborne. Join us next week, every week, Thursday at 8 p.m. on the back patio at Dutch's Hamburgers, the best burger in Fort Worth. This is the